again, it'll help him because he never ended up taking the serum. But I don't know. I don't know what else I would add in there.
I guess the only thing I can think of is some sort of magnet situation in his arm to like call the shield back to him. So if it's not like a bouncing situation, sort of in like a Thor hammer situation where it'll like come to you. That's the only thing I can kind of.
That's a good one.
Ooh, I like that a lot. Also because he doesn't have that super strength, right? So if
Mhm.
someone's trying to rip the shield away from him,
Right, they
it's
won't
going to
be
be a
able
lot
to like,
more
pull it off
difficult
his
for him to
arm.
hold on to it.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah, I'm gonna be a cop out. I'm gonna take everything that's said before me and combine it into one thing.
look at you. Look at you go.
So I
Yeah.
think I think that going on with S and kind of your theory as well, I think the suit will be imbued with vibranium, and also the new set of wings that he'll have will be vibranium as well. Try to break those off, you know. Other things we've seen too in the past, and I don't know if this is going to be part of his character as well. We talked about it last week. If you watch, you know what Falcon's done in the past, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. I mean, he'll do what it takes. I mean, Captain America is a guy who doesn't kill people. Sam has shot people as the Falcon, and blown people up as the Falcon. So I don't know if we'll see him with some sort of gun or something like that. That's something that, I mean, because even as the Falcon, he still has the dual guns. You know, he still goes. What do they call it? Akimbo, right? With the two pistols. So I don't know if he loses the gun and just guns and holds the shield, but maybe something like that. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Does he have some sort of talons? Maybe, I don't know if that'd be cheesy. You know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he does because, you wonder if it'll be a combination, Falcon / Captain America, right? Whether it's a little bit of both. And so, we'll kind of see how that goes. I do think it's interesting if you're going to have someone like Torres take over the Falcon. Well, then it's kind of like, well, if he's the Falcon, then you wouldn't have Sam still be the Falcon, even if that's the case. You know what I mean? So. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll
Does
see.
he still have the wings?
Right. There's a lot of cool. S is throwing a million good links here in the chat.
Yeah.
Love it. But
Does he still have Red Wing or
Right.
That's another thing.
So those are all questions that we, of course, don't know the answer to. So I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen. But whatever it is, I mean, it's going to be dope because it's coming from the Wakandans, and every time Wakanda makes something. Like, it's dope as hell. So,
exactly.
It's going to look nasty.
Yeah, I think the wings are going to be, on the arms, like Ass was saying. I think it's not going to be kind of thing with it. Come out.
And something that can help him glide more often. You know what I mean?
They'll probably come out of the suit as well.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be there full time.
Like, very distractible, very clean.
Yeah, they won't be visible. Yeah, it'll be a clean look.
It'll totally
cool.
change how he
It'll be
fights because
really cool.
he uses the actual power of the engine in his wings a lot.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
Which has kind of been his way of circumventing not being a super powered person.
So
exactly.
It's wild how that whole suit just fits in that box, man. It's crazy, by the way.
Exactly. Anyone else down there in the comments?
Maybe not to cut you off, but you know how with the new suit for the Black Panther, towards the end of the movie, it was like a Power Ranger necklace thing, where you touch the necklace, the whole suit comes out of the necklace. Necklace.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they could totally do that. Yeah, they could.
It's like a thing like that, where it's like hit a button and then the whole suit magically shows up.
That'd be pretty dope. Dope. Emily, you're right. If Sherry's involved, it's going to be nasty.
Exactly. Anyone in the lobby want to come
what
up and say something real quick?
Tony Stark was trying to do with his own suit, and then she figured out how to do it. So, just
Right.
saying.
That's it. Well, Sherry, I mean, right now, I think Rocket obviously is a great inventor, and Banner is obviously super smart. But
isn't Shuri the smartest person?
I was gonna say you could make an argument that she is the smartest person in the MCU, which is wild. That's
so Reed Richards gets here.
Yeah, maybe you could, then you can make the argument about Reed too. But like she knows all that, so it's really interesting to see kind of where they're headed. You know what I mean? So, and if she does become the Black Panther, and if she doesn't, she's obviously then going to be still that head person making stuff. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they move forward with that.
Absolutely.
But
I think about who's going to be the new Black Panther like once a day, man. I really do.
Well, it's one of those things that they just can't screw it up. You can't. And listen, it all comes back to trust in the Feige, right? I trust in the Feige, so I'm going to say they're going to figure it out. But like
one thing
you can't get it wrong.
And one thing that I have thought about, because Shuri's kind of a tomboy, right? And I'm not generalizing here or anything like that. A lot of people are upset because they want to see T'Challa Storm. Could this be one of the first lesbian situations that we see with a Storm and a Shuri? And kind of still have that Black Panther Storm, love thing happen, but with Shuri and Storm.
That's really interesting.
That would be interesting. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's so many different, and this is the thing, right? There's right now at this point in the MCU, right now, going into this final episode, there's so much that we don't know, right? There's so many questions, way more questions than we have answers right now moving forward. And so they have so much to do, and they can screw it up a million different ways, right? But at the same time, they could also get it right, and it could be unbelievable. And so, it's really going to be interesting to see if they can continue getting. I mean, they've had some duds, okay, but for the most part, they've gotten it right almost every single time. So, like, for them to still continue to get it right, I mean, at a certain point, like, it's like, are they going to miss at some point where you're like, what are they doing with this angle, right? And so that's going to be interesting to see.
Now, I just want to, while we have these people up here too, and then we're going to end the show, but I want to get Akil, Emily, and then Pat, your final thoughts on what happens to Captain America. What's his name?
John Walker.
John Walker. What happens to him?
Yeah, so I think S got a phone call, so I think he's out. But
Akil and Emily.
Yeah. I already mentioned this. I think that you could set something up where the Thunderbolts now are in play. Zemo's already going to be at the raft. The last time we saw Thunderbolt Ross, he was at the raft. And so if you can get John Walker somehow to the raft, now does that mean he tries to go to the GRC and do things by himself and then gets arrested and ends up in the raft as an inmate? Or does that mean that someone approaches him and says, hey, someone wants to talk to you, and it's Ross? I don't know how it could happen, but to me, something like that makes sense because you're not bringing Zemo back. You're not bringing Zemo back for a few episodes to then kick him out again. That doesn't make any sense, right? Zemo is coming back. So the question to me is, how is that going to happen? And doing something like the Thunderbolts makes a lot of sense. And even if it's not full Thunderbolts, even if it's just a few of them, to me it makes sense to do something like that. And so I think that's where we're headed with him. I might be wrong, but I think that's where we're headed with him. Emily, what do you think?
You stole my answer a little bit, because when I saw him creating the shield, and after the conversation he had with our no-name mystery Julia Louis-Dreyfus, my first thought was that he doesn't take her up on her offer right away. He creates a shield, thinks he's still Captain America, is very unhealthfully obsessed and possessed by this idea that he's Captain America and has to avenge Lamar's death still. And now Sam and Bucky are responsible in a way, because they didn't they came after him for killing that one member of the Flag Smashers, and he will want to take down the Flag Smashers any way that he can, even if that also means killing Bucky and Sam, which I don't know all of the other stuff that you were talking about, like Thunderbolt Ross and all of this, whatever. I'm kind of I just watch and learn as I go. But if all of those things happen and it ends up with him at the raft as well, then I think all of those things could fall into place. But he, now is clearly leaning into the unhealthy side of his mind. Now that the serum has taken over his body, and will do what he and only he believes is right in this next immediate future, because he's completely possessed by it.
Yeah, he absolutely needs therapy.
He needed it a long time ago.
He's not a healthy human being. Mentally unstable. To Emily's point, he's making the shield, and I think he's gonna go down blowing this whole shit up in flames, right? Like, I just feel like that's gotta be what happens. And I don't know if he can swear on this podcast, but if he can't, cut it out. But yeah, he's blowing this whole thing up with him if he has to. I think.
I think there might be a situation maybe where we see them ending up teaming up for some reason at the end of this episode. Maybe they're forced into a situation where they have to. I don't know if that'll end up happening, but I think the possibility is there for him to sort of redeem himself a little bit. I'm not sure if it will end up happening, but he's not supposed to be a full-blown villain. So if they can try to shift him into more of being an anti-hero, which I think they're doing a good job of, they might have him do something good in the final episode to kind of redeem himself a little bit in the eyes of the audience.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
what I
he
think.
clearly was like, I was watching that scene of his hearing and was like very contorted and twisted in how I felt, because you listen to him talking about how, like, you all built me into this. I am who I am because of the military, because of the government, because of what America was supposed to stand for. And now you're telling me what I've done is horrifically wrong. And like, yes, killing a man in cold blood is obviously a very bad thing, but to like have that just idea pounded into your head for years and years and years, and probably to a degree similar actions which ended up with him receiving awards and medals in his career earlier, has put him in like a very unstable mental situation, and makes you feel for the guy in a way, and you don't really want to, but you can't help it. And so, I think the U.S. military, and therefore maybe the GRC, are also now on his shit list, as well as Sam and Bucky. And so that also could be what, ends up starting him down this like further path of who knows what. But yeah, he's been broken long before he was named Captain America, and it's only gotten worse now that he's taken the serum.
Josh,
So I think it's a combination of kind of what you said, Pat, and I think he does get arrested. And the thing is, they mentioned the raft specifically. They didn't have to mention the raft. The raft is going to come into play. And Thunderbolt Ross is one of the guys that we're hearing a lot. And, he's the guy that potentially could be, a spoiler, so to speak, in the post-credits scene. And I if he does indeed get arrested or brought into the raft, then I think that's where we see this Thunderbolts thing kind of happen, where he approaches both of those guys, and maybe they're in the jail cell next to each other as the Avengers were in Civil War, and we see something like that happen. S makes a good point too, where they possibly team up. It's so, without knowing what Sharon is doing, and without knowing this senator, because I think the senator who's in charge of the GRC, he might have something to do with this. He might be the power broker via Zola, because didn't Zemo say you thought you got rid of all of Hydra or something like that in an earlier episode? Or do we know that Hydra's completely gone? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
There's so many different layers to it. I think it eventually ends up with him at the raft with Thunderbolt Ross and with Zemo, and them, starting potentially the Thunderbolts initiative. I think that's the most likely option for him. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And with this episode, I'm assuming it's going to be an hour as well. We haven't heard anything that's going to be the longest or anything like that. I'm assuming it's going to be right around an hour. Does this battle happen